I'm back.
He's here in person.
One back, one down.
One down. Yeah, we're interchangeable. You can just. So y'all are just giving me crap about missing ICSC.
We just missed you, man.
I know. I wish I could have gone. I told you my sob story. It's not that big of a deal, but I had to. Something was on life support. I got the paddles out, brought it back to life. Still died. So it's okay. It is what it is. That's real estate, right?
Yeah.
So
we missed you, buddy.
Yeah.
Missed you. It was a good show.
Yeah.
We had a good time on the podcast. Had some
We
good
did.
guests on there. It's done well.
Yeah. I'm getting in shape for Vegas.
There you go.
Yeah.
Attaboy.
Getting ready. So
What? How many nights? Y'all know yet?
I have no clue yet. I don't really book, book my travel till like 2 days before. Like
Was last year when y'all were doing the red eye and then y'all canceled that?
we were going to do that because we had meetings from 9:30 to 11 that night. I mean, it was just so it was a hell of a pace. It was we got 2 really good loans out of that deal.
Nice.
So it was good.
That's great.
Nice. So
Is it a day and a half? What I'm trying to remember the format.
Yeah, it's a day and a half now. And so
Okay.
I think if I remember right, we fly out Monday afternoon.
Yeah.
Everything kicks off. It's all day Tuesday and then half day
And then half,
Wednesday.
yeah.
We leave Wednesday on a 5 o'clock flight out. So it should be very productive.
yeah, I'm ready. So we got a guest today.
Special guest.
That's
Special
right.
Good morning, guys. Thanks
Yeah.
for having me.
Oh, keep that about a fist away from you, right, like that.
A little better. There we go.
Yeah, there
There
you
you
go.
go.
Cool. There we
Yeah.
go.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Better.
Perfect.
he's not quite. See, he's like a professional sportscaster.
He knows
Right?
what he's doing. Look at that smile over there.
That's right. I was on ESPN this morning.
Yeah.
And now I'm here.
Yeah. So, well, you want to introduce your guest?
Yeah, so special guest and great friend Ryan. Ryan is with Hopdoddy. Has been in the business for years and based in Fort Worth. They're vice president of real estate for Hopdoddy. Aggressively expanding. Obviously, a near and dear client of mine. We just opened in McKinney at West Grove, Custer and 380. Brag a little bit. That's the #1 store in Dallas. Very, very strong.
Yeah, that's what I say. It hasn't been very long.
It has not been very long, but it's every time. I think I have made my family eat there at least 15 times since it's opened. Every time it's packed and great service, great food, and so
You're our #1 customer. I was telling Jeremy that every time I go there, I see you.
they've already put a plaque on one of the bar stools, so
It's
I've got a spot.
Yeah.
I've got a spot. But Ryan, thanks for joining us. We're
Yeah.
glad you're here. We'll kind of give you the floor for a minute, if you don't mind. Let's talk about your background a little bit, how you got into the business, what you've done previously, and then let's jump into Hopdoddy and where you're looking and what your expansion efforts look like in the future.
Yeah, sounds good. So I grew up in Fort Worth, sort of in Colleyville, in between Fort Worth and Dallas. And I'm a TCU guy, business school, marketing, entrepreneurship. And when I was coming out of school, I didn't quite know what I wanted to do. My dad was a restaurant guy and started a company when I was a small kid. So I always grew up in the hospitality space, always grew up like dreading dining experiences with my dad because they were usually at his restaurants. And like I knew when he would get up from the table, it was like a coachable moment for someone.
Whether they were ready for that moment or not, it was coming.
Yeah, so my sister and I just did a lot of this growing up. But yeah, it was an industry that I knew well and loved. And so when I got out of school, I was studying entrepreneurship and I was like, I'm going to end up running some Target or something and I don't want to do that. So I added marketing as a major, kind of took an intro class, loved it, and really got into like consumer preference and brands. And so when I came out of school, I have a very non-traditional path into commercial real estate. So I went to work at the Richards Group in Dallas. I'd interned there on the Home Depot account, loved it, loved the culture. Like they competed at the time against Southwest Airlines and Container Store for like best place to work. So lucky enough to get to know Stan Richards very well and worked for their most tenured principal for a long time and ended up working for Wawa out of Philadelphia. It was a like quick trip with a legit deli built in. So worked on their food service, worked on their business, worked on their growth plan to Florida. They had like expansion ideas of like doing the snowbird thing. They were real heavy in the mid-Atlantic states and they were jumping to Florida at the time. So did that for a couple of years, then had an opportunity to go work on Chick-fil-A, which was kind of a dream account for them. They pioneered the cow campaign and sort of put them on the map.
Eat more chicken.
That's right. Still do most days. And so I did that for a couple of years, and then if like glutton for punishment wasn't enough in the ad space, I went to work in the automotive group. So I did Ram and Fiat for a couple of years, and loved it. It was just like insane pace and brand consulting, flying all over the place. And at the time, we started having kids, and so we moved back to Fort Worth. And my kids were tiny, and I didn't know what I wanted to do really in Fort Worth. Like, it sort of forced the hand for me to leave Richards Group. Their growth had sort of slowed, and I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do next. So I had a buddy who had worked at the Site Selection Consultancy, a small, significant family-owned company. And so I went and interviewed with them, and they needed a guy to come run their restaurant and retail and private equity group. So I did that, kind of trained for a year, and then as a VP in that company, ran that for like 8 years. And Jersey Mike's, Restoration Hardware, Tesla, like a ton of great clients. I was sort of shocked that I had this portfolio that I did in Fort Worth. It was like amazing, huge companies. So got a lot of good experience, and that was sort of my foray into commercial real estate. Like, everything we did was predictive analytics, top line revenue forecasting for new sites. So learned about how O'Reilly Auto Parts works different than Tesla, different than Resto, with like huge flagship galleries. And I kind of became interested in the space. And so when I was about 6 years in, Hopdoddy deal came across my desk, and I had been in Austin a bunch. My best friend went to UT, and so I go down there for ACL every year, and loved Hopdoddy, like huge raving fan of the brand. So I snatched it real quick. Most everything in the restaurant space went into my group anyways, but like grabbed it. And me and my junior Jade at the time went down to Austin immediately and met Jeff Chandler. And he was their CEO at the time. He's been in the seat 9 years. And he's a Pacific Northwest guy, but also grew up in the restaurant space. So we just like hit it off and had really good conversations about their business and their service model and their food and their sense of hospitality. So it was sort of a match made in heaven. And worked on that business for a couple of years. We built them a model. They didn't quite have enough locations for like top line revenue forecasting models. So we built them a benchmark model, and which gives them like an index score from 100 being average, like plus or below that. And so really got ingrained in their business, worked together for a couple of years. And then I was working with a recruiter, Helen Lau, who I really, really like, with ClearPath. And she was like, you need to go work on the brand side. And I didn't have any transaction experience at all. Mm-hmm. And so I interviewed for the job, and I think it was the final two, and got taken to the board at Catterton, and they were like, you need to hire this deal person. So they hired someone else, and I was crushed. And so at the behest of Helen, I went to go work at CBRE to get closer to the transaction, to like kind of build out that piece of my resume. And did that for a couple of years, working on the UHG, United Health Group, and Optum business. I was head of strategy with one other guy. And so we managed a team of TMs. And that's where I learned portfolio management. I didn't know what a critical date was when I went to CBRE a couple of years ago. And so that was great. I mean, I learned, we were like intimately involved in all these deals, these renewals. We were doing new development. They were cash rich, so they were gobbling up companies. They were buying companies left and right. So I sat on the M&A team and then kind of led the strategy team. So it was great. It was a great exposure. It got me close enough to that piece of the business where Jeff called me coming out of COVID, and he said, we're firing up a real estate team, and I want you to come and run it. So it was like perfect timing. I was sitting at home just like withering on the vine, and he called. And so I've been here about a year and a half now, and we're looking at like a 10 to 15% CAGR. So on 50 restaurants, that's 5 to 7 deals a year. So it's manageable. We built a model with our friend Charles Wetzel and Stephen Plansky at Calibrate. It was some old guys I used to work with. They all kind of migrated over there with most of like the new tech and sort of investment in that side of their business. And so, yeah, we built a model. I oversaw that, which was sort of kind of easy. It was germane to what I used to do. And then, yeah, we've been doing some great deals. So, I did this with Austin a couple weeks ago. We sat down and like did our JLL Hopdoddy thing. And I'm thankful to have good broker partners and sort of educate me on things that I'm learning. And Jeff has a lot of confidence in what we're doing. Our board has a lot of confidence in what we're doing. So kind of taking this like really funky, cool Austin brand and kind of pushing it forward. Like they grew, I think, 3 units last year. And so we're accelerating that, which is great. So we'll capitalize and have kind of a Texas Plus strategy. I will probably get into that. But yeah, so happy to be here.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. Let's let's back up real quick. You told me a little bit about your dad's story in the restaurant business, and I thought it was very intriguing. If it kind of summarize a little bit about what he did and, where they sold to and all those different things, if you would. Just touch on that when you were growing up. What did that look like?
Yeah, so it was a company called DF&R, and it was my dad and his older brother, and then two more operational and finance guys. And they started a company. It was Don Pablo's and Harrigan's, which you probably remember.
Oh, I remember
growing
Don
up
Pablo.
Yeah.
years ago.
Your dad, you own Don Pablo's?
They sadly,
The Prairie Fire Bean Dip. was one of
yeah.
my favorites
yeah,
growing
I
up.
remember when that came out.
I remember when it opened up in Irving. I was like, oh, Don Pablo's. This is like,
It's big time.
we had JT McCord's, and then it was Don Pablo's.
Yeah. My dad's real estate guy was a guy named Bob Parent, and is still like his best friend. He's coming to town in a couple weeks, and so he's been a mentor of mine through all of this. He did major deals in Times Square and like pretty savant real estate guy to me.
Yeah.
And so he's been a great mentor of mine as I kind of ramp up this side of this journey. But yeah, they had a very like tight knit company. They grew Don Pablo's to 200 units through the Midwest and the
I didn't realize
South.
it got that big.
Yeah.
And then Harrigan's was like 25 maybe. And so they went public in 1995. I was 10 years old.
Yeah.
And I remember going to their opening bell ceremony, and then they sold to Apple South, it was a company out of Madison, Georgia. Some things changed. It was my uncle's exit strategy. My dad was their COO. So as a kid, my dad was gone all the time growing restaurants. He's sort of a man of extremes. So he was gone all the time, opening every new restaurant, like handcrafted the whole business. And then, he retired when I was like 14 or 15. So all of a sudden he was home all the time, like making us lunch and taking us to soccer practice, which was weird. So he retired for several years, and then he and their old head of food and their old CFO, a guy named Larry Folk, started another restaurant company called Fresco's, and they had 3 of those in Highland Village, in Burleson, and like Keller, Watauga areas. That's where I worked in the restaurants when I was a freshman at TCU. He had me working in the restaurants, and that was he was like, you can either work here or somewhere else.
Right.
And so, that's what I chose to work there. And so I remember like, bid day and like early on TCU days, I was like getting in the car and driving to Fresco's, and it just opened. He was like, this is our family business. We got to make it work. And so I was like bootstrapping it most weekends. So I cut my teeth kind of in the restaurant business, and like trained their servers and was a server myself. And so I huge proponent of like service industry and everybody needing to, do that at some point. Yeah, it was just sort of how I grew up. He was a very, very hardworking man, loved people, like loved his business. And then after they sold, he sort of took a step back. He was there for a year or two, and then didn't love the way the company was headed. He stepped away.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome. So let's fast forward. Hopdoddy, let's talk a little bit about, site characteristics. What are you looking for? What does a deal look like? What speaks to the brand, and where are they successful?
Yeah. So, we started in Austin in 2010 on South Congress. It was a totally dilapidated part of Austin that Liz Lambert came into and built Hotel San Jose. It was sort of like a cracked in, as she describes it. And a few years after that, we came in and built Hopdoddy, and that whole area is just transition. There's Equinox there, Soho House. There's just, like retail revolution on South Congress. So we were lucky to be sort of early in that flipping of South Congress. But that's sort of our humble roots. Back then we had lines out the door, cult following in Austin, and in terms of space, we typically go into inline or in cap. We prefer in caps. West Grove's like 2,800 square feet, but we have restaurants as big as 4,000 square feet. I think 3,200 is kind of our sweet spot with a large patio, and that sort of varies based on market and availability. Yeah, we're testing mobile order pickup windows too. It's kind of a concept that we sort of organically came across during COVID when everything was off-prem, and we didn't think our business was very geared towards off-prem. We have one in South Austin off William Cannon called what we call Little Dottie. It's a kind of a foray into like a Hopdoddy QSR hybrid. Started that way, and then it kind of rolled downhill to become a Hopdoddy. So like the guest today thinks of it as a normal Hopdoddy, but it's a little bit different. And it's got a mobile order pickup window. And to this day, we do 30 to 40% volume off-prem. It's like just mind-blowing still that our food travels that well and people prefer that experience off-site. So, and we're a very experiential brand. So we sort of wrestle with this idea of, we want people to come into Hopdoddy and take a seat at the bar and order up front, and then sit down, have some drinks. But we also acknowledge the importance of meeting our guests where they are. And so when people, through COVID and really years after COVID still said, we want Hopdoddy to go, like, well, shit, we better figure this out. So packaging, catering, we're working on a brunch test. So we're really trying to just expand our business in ways that feel sort of authentic to us. But yeah, in terms of growth, our strategy is Texas Plus. And it's really what I pitched Jeff like 8 or 9 years ago. Like when you look at the data, we do about 700,000 better in AUV in our Texas locations. And so we have a site in Nashville that crushes it. Our Memphis store has done like exceedingly well. We can't quite figure that out recently, but we've struggled in Atlanta a little bit. We acquired Grub Burger a couple years ago, and so that's been a little bit of a clunky transition, getting Atlanta figured out. We think of Atlanta and Nashville as keys to the East, but we're well positioned in Nashville and do really well. But our core is always Texas. We're known sort of differently here and sort of a beloved brand. So most of our growth is Texas focused. We have 2 stores in Phoenix and 3 stores in California and 2 in Denver, and then 1 in Florida. So just lay out the map. But we're really focused in Phoenix. Phoenix is a high growth market for us, good affluence, good density. We have 2 stores there that do really well in Scottsdale and Camelback. So we're sussing out a couple more deals in Phoenix. And then we really have eyes to the east. A lot of brands over the last couple of years have kind of focused on I hate the flyover, but there's tons of opportunity there. Real estate costs are manageable. COGS is good. Labor's good. For all the right reasons, it just kind of makes sense. And I think Hopdoddy is a very music and football and family and just a gathering place. So I think of SEC footprint as a nice little growth trajectory for us, eventually going into Ohio, maybe Kansas City, St. Louis, over the next 10 years. But I kind of see us growing up to DC first.
Yeah.
Over the next 10 years. But yeah, most of our deals right now are in Texas. So, major Texas markets, DFW, Houston, Austin, San Antonio. We just had an opening in San Antonio last week at the Strand. Huebner and Huebner, where we've been trying to get in for a while. It was an old freestanding payway. We don't do a lot of freestanders, as you know. But it's great. We have a really cool patio set on this huge oak mott. It's really nice. And I went to that site and I really liked it. And then I presented it to Jeff and he was like, we looked at this years ago. I still love it. Let's do it. So those are our first 2 openings that you and I have worked on. Yeah. And then we've got about 5 more in the pipeline and working on 27 deals.
There you go. I love it.
Yeah. It's been fun.
Hey, quick question. So with your background in kind of starting on more the data side, how do you guys incorporate and look at new deals? How much is kind of data driven and how you guys look at stuff? I know you all kind of got a new model and everything you're talking about.
Yeah. We very much look at it as intersection of art and science. When I was at Buxton for 8 years, I consulted brands on that exact thing. Right. So it was kind of fun and also a little scary to switch over and then make those decisions.
You gotta take the bet now.
Yeah, it's easy when you can just kind of sort of look at it on paper and advise and go look at stuff and be like, yeah, you should go here when your name's on it. Basically, job's on the line. It's stressful. I feel like I think when you're investing someone else's money, you have to feel like it's your money. So, I take that very seriously. But we talk a lot about intersection of art and science. The desk work that I do is using the model. So Calibrate built us a model, and we send them our location data, our sales, our customers, and our transactions. And so they break that up by day part. They break it up by region, Texas versus non-Texas. So all these data cuts that they look at. And then they ultimately build one overall model. And so we use that to start. And then they apply that model to all the retail seed points across the U.S. to build a white space analysis. So that's sort of our hunting license, if you will, quantifies the number of opportunities, net new in each market, infilling around our existing locations. So we call it an infill white space. And so we set thresholds for what that minimum year 1 sales wants to be. We operate 90% year 1, 95% year 2, and then by year 3, we're fully ramped. So in a restaurant opening, we have sort of that honeymoon phase, the first couple of months, and then it typically dips off just a little bit, and then it kind of builds over 3 years.
Right.
So fully stabilized restaurants, about 3 years. And so Calibrate builds that into their model, and we look first at trade areas that are, infill. And so we look at high growth trade areas. Our model takes into account competition, co-tenancy, the demand side of the equation, which we call customer values. Like, are there the right types of people in the right proximity, both from a residential standpoint based on massive mobile data and where they live through Experian data. So we know like where that device pings 8 hours at night as their home. And then we use that to figure out where they are during the day. So office buildings and where big companies are located, things like that. And then universities plays a role in our growth as well. So we bring all that data science together, and we have a tool that allows us to score any specific site. Like Rob will send me 5 or 6 sites, and I'll drop a push pin and score that site. And so that gives us the numbers. And then if we generally like the numbers, we'll go visit, and we'll put eyes on the specific piece of real estate, or we'll explore the trade area around there. And then, in terms of site characteristics, we're looking for visibility, signage, parking, ingress, egress. And so and I rank those 1 through 5. So that's more the science side of it.
Right.
If the art is there and the people are there and the right, in the restaurant space, competition and co-tenancy is a little tricky, right? Because you have other concepts that are culturally relevant, and you want them near you to create that vibe and to create what we would always call restaurant row. But then you reach a point of saturation, and that share of stomach, share of wallet is, not super favorable. So we talk a lot about and we're also a little bit competitive agnostic. We have Shake Shack, even like Whataburger. We have a handful of concepts that splinter away in our business, but we don't have a ton of direct replacement, competitors. So when I think of competition, it's more like Velvet Taco. We want to beat by Velvet Taco, but also too many Velvets, too many Torchies, too many similar concepts. When you think about just when you're in your car trying to figure out where to go eat, you have the veto vote, you have the health vote, you have the kids screaming about what they want, So we bring all that together and think about, if people are not going to Hopdoddy, where are they going? And so we bring all that together. And so at my desk, and then, our real estate committee is pretty small. We have a pretty good team of industry experts. We have a couple guys on our board that have previous CDOs of huge companies, and so they're super helpful to us in making quick decisions. Catterton is a great financial sponsor for us, so those guys help steer us in the right direction. But they give us a lot of autonomy. There's a lot of trust, which is scary and also a huge responsibility when we present stuff and it gets approved. It's I'm always sweating those meetings because you do all the work preparing for that, and then it goes well, and you're like, okay, this is good. So yeah, we've been fortunate in terms of deal making. We could not do what we do if we didn't have really good partners in Rob and Wilson and Barry. They steer us in the right direction. They bring us really good sites to start with. So
he's also a customer.
It makes it yeah, mostly to support directly the restaurant. Yeah.
Is there an equation of if it's so far within Rob's driving area that your sales will automatically go
that's
up?
right.
So.
Yeah. I don't think Austin goes to as much in Austin, but Rob's a loyal fan of Dallas.
What so when you're doing all this data aggregation and you get a couple years down the road and you do a look back on it and do the autopsy, what are the outliers that come up that you didn't think about, good and positive, that sway stores' success one way or the other?
So that's a really important diagnostic thing, and we do that every year. It's because of that 3-year ramp, it's kind of hard to take. I'll use West Grove as an example. We had already done the deal on West Grove when we provided all of the data to Calibrate, and we didn't.
Wait, you'd already signed it, so you're like, this doesn't matter here.
And Jeff sort of gives me a pat on the back, and it's nice validation, but it was the number 1 scoring trade area in Dallas-Fort Worth. And so we sort of looked at each other and we're like, hell yeah, let's go.
Yeah.
This is going to be a good one.
Yeah.
And sure enough, it was super high growth, Whole Foods anchored center. This is where the data is imperfect because that Whole Foods wasn't open yet. Right. So when you score that site, it doesn't know that there's a Whole Foods there. So you're not getting credit for that retail La La Land. There's a bunch of Hudson Houses coming there, Chewy's. all the synergy that's to come
Yeah.
is not quantified in the data. So that, and more so to your question, is like the intersection of art and science. Is like,
Right.
if it scores well now, it knows that there's a good mix of the right types of people, like built homes, like solid multifamily, and good retail. And then we look at that and we plus that up with all the stuff that we know is coming. And so those are all like asterisk notes in my presentation to the board.
Yeah.
And so when we look backwards, we really look to see like how accurate were we?
Yeah.
Were we plus or minus 10%? And in the restaurant space, operations is such a critical component to the success of that restaurant. Like, you may like a chain, but if a restaurant that you go to within that chain isn't run well,
Yeah.
you're not going back.
Doesn't matter.
Like-
Yeah. Then it comes down to people.
Yeah.
Which, business is easy until people get involved.
and we're lucky there, because I think our ops team is like the best, most engaged ops team
Yeah.
I've ever worked with. They have calls every single week, and they're just, our operations is very, very consistent. So it in some ways makes that part of my job easier, because we're not, and we just sort of say this on the consulting side, like, you're not going to plug in a B or a C operator.
Yeah.
You're going to want to plug in an A operator. And I think at Hopdoddy, I think we do that. We have a robust training schedule, and so GMs are grown from within generally, and the ones we bring from the outside have tons of experience, and we do that vibe check like really well and make sure they're culturally a good fit. So
Yeah.
we don't, we know the operation is going to be good.
Yeah.
So
One of the unique things about the concept to me, is really the bar format is kind of the heart of that restaurant, right? Like West Grove's 2,800 square feet. It is not a big restaurant, and the bar for the size of that space is very significant, and it's smack dab in the middle of that store, and it feels like that kind of helps create that feeling of whether it's friendliness and hanging out. You'll see everything from two guys having beers and just eating some fries, not even there for a meal, to a family sitting at a booth right back behind you. Little pro tip: you don't have to wait in line if you just go sit at the bar. They'll take your order right there. So when you show up and there's a long line, just go sit at the bar. And
Sit your whole family at the bar?
my daughter and I have sat at the bar many times. I'm like, hey, she's young. Is that all right? Yeah, it's fine. So perfect. So we'll saddle up at the bar and order there. But just it really creates the sense of home in my mind versus just your more traditional fast casual. Show up and order, eat, and leave. There's a linger time that's associated with that, and so much of that has to do with that kind of bar there in the center.
I think it creates like you're talking about earlier, just that space and energy. You walk in and there's games, and
That's right.
it's centered right there. So
Yeah.
it creates some energy where people are like, oh, this is a fun atmosphere.
Yeah, and kudos to Ryan. That deal, we had to fight to get that thing done, right? It scored well, but it was the first one we had done in Dallas in a long time. You had the Grub conversions going backwards. We had an entire rollout plan with multiple stores in the pipeline. They ended up acquiring Grub, and we, of course, wiped the pipeline clean, unfortunately. And so
All those fees just poof.
disappeared. Man, it was one of those, like, we had three that were very, very close. And of course, the Grub were, those locations were very close proximity to those new ones. So that kind of cleaned the board. And so we had to start over again. And there was some hesitation there of like, hey, this is the first one that we've done in Dallas in a long time. And, Ryan scratched and clawed to get that deal approved. And so when I honestly, I don't know if I've been as nervous for an opening as that one as I had for a long time, because we'd gone years without doing a deal.
Yeah.
And then we finally had, as a broker, you get one that you really believe in. Like, forget the fee. Like, this is a deal we have to do. It makes all the sense in the world. We've got to get this thing done. And, had a great partner. We got it done. And then it's like, please let it open well.
Yeah.
Because if it sucks, it's not going to be good for any of us.
Yeah.
And luckily, it opened up very, very strong, continues to perform. And so that was a labor of love for both of us. And it was fun to get that across the finish line.
How many months in is the opening?
we opened in November.
Okay.
So
5 months.
5
yeah.
months. So you still got about 2.5 years to go to get the real full picture.
yeah, and I
But
think
Rob will keep getting his punch card hit there.
as long as Rob keeps going, volumes will say hi.
Right.
And there's so much coming to that trade area as well.
That's right.
All the stick-built stuff behind us. There's sort of a corridor that runs through the middle of that center. Like all those homes back there, there's some garden homes, there's some single-family stuff, and it's all being built now. So I think more good things to come.
Yeah.
And more
It's only gonna
competition.
get better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Real estate only goes up and to the right. So
Exactly.
You do it right. Yeah.
Exactly. Awesome.
that's cool.
What's last thing? What's your go-to order? Because like you're in pretty good shape, so you're not sampling all the milkshakes every day. And
I am. I eat way too much Hopdoddy. So I was a huge proponent of us adding a smash burger.
yeah,
When I was starting at Hopdoddy, we were testing it. We have a burger of the month. And so we have a really robust culinary program. Like I'm blown away by Velvet's like weekly taco feature. That culinary program is so intense to do we do a monthly burger. And it's always something good. It's always something different. It's always something seasonal or culturally different, or I think it's sort of like tip of the spear for us culinarily. And we bring some back and we phase some out or whatever. But when I was starting a year and a half ago, it was August or September, and we tested a smash burger. It was called the Okie Smash, and it was our number 1 or number 2 seller, like right out of the gate. And our CFO at the time, Bill Schaffler, he and I are like huge smash burger fans, just as a category. And we had this mentality like Hopdoddy should be doing smash burgers. It's what consumers like. It's if I'm gonna have a cheat meal or I'm gonna like want a gooey American cheeseburger. Well, it was sort of juxtaposed to these like very non-pretentious but like chefy burgers that we make, and with like complex flavor profiles and like intense builds and all these different toppings and stuff. So, I think there was some sentiment within Hopdoddy like the smash burger is simple, and we were like sometimes simple is great. And so lo and behold, like before I got there, they were testing smash burger. It went really well. And then our CFO, it was a double Wagyu smash. And margins are good, price point's good. Like people loved it. And so Bill and I were sort of carrying the torch for let's do more smash burgers. And they added it to the menu, and I think it's our number 2 burger. So that's my go-to. I love a thinner patty. If I'm going to eat a burger, it's probably got American cheese on it because it's, awful but delicious for you. Like chopped jalapenos and caramelized onions. It's like delicious sauce. So of course, like our chefs did it really, really well,
right?
And it's still robust and good. But I'll munch on the smash burger, and then we have these new chicken drummies, and they're French cut chicken wings. So they cut the meat sort of at the bone and they push it down, and it creates kind of this more like it's like a lollipop. It's kind of like a chicken drummy on a stick, and they're really, really good. My son Sawyer will just devour like 8 of them. So. Yeah, those are probably my go-to things. Our milkshakes are phenomenal. I try to stay away from those.
Yeah.
But I certainly added the Hopdoddy 15. I would go, I love the brand and always have. So I would go eat there when I go to Austin a lot for work. And so I'd go to eat Hopdoddy all the time. And all of a sudden I was like, oh my gosh, we got to reverse this trend a bit. So I've got a little better.
that's awesome. I'm getting
Salads
hungry.
are really good if you do want a healthier
right.
option. You got a great salad with I put the bison patty on top. If you're trying to do somewhat healthy, that's a great solution.
Yeah.
So
Nowadays, once
they
a
got something
week,
for everybody.
I'll get like a bison patty and a tuna patty and just eat that after a workout. And so that's great.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
I love it.
I'm getting hungry.
Come on, let's go. That's right. Well, good. Do we want to?
Yeah, we want to jump in some of the
regular
investment.
scheduled program.
Absolutely, absolutely. We'll jump into some of our key tenets that we watch and track, and kind of what's going on in the market, and continue to see kind of positive trends there.
Yeah.
I think if you go look at what we heard last month at ICSC and just what we're seeing in the marketplace, definitely more positive momentum for this year with openings and just investment activity. But we'll cover a couple of these groups. So 7-Eleven's one obviously that we track and watch. Inventory continues to decrease with all these groups that we're tracking. Still kind of positive, net decreases in inventory, which is, I think, overall healthy. It got a little high, the last 2 years. That inventory is still coming down. So with the 7-Elevens that we're tracking, more of the new construction stuff, there's 44 on the market. There were 45 last month. So continues to drop. The price ranges and cap rates are still kind of in the same range. The high on the price point, $13 million. They're still doing some of those bigger truck stop sites. Median still continuing to go up a little bit. So or just above $8 million on the median price range for those 7-Eleven properties. And then low price points, $1.8 million. There's still some of that older product that's getting extended and longer term stuff that's showing up. But those low price points are all kind of the older product. And then on the cap rate range, the high cap is 5.5, medians at that 5.25, and then 4.25 on that
The California cap.
on the California cap. That's right. So that's, kind of all positive, I think. We're still seeing good positive momentum with those bonus buyers, and we're seeing more exchange activity in the market. So, and some larger exchanges. So I think all that's kind of bode well for 7-Elevens and just the overall market activity. And then on the Chipotle side, still kind of that same trend. There was 55 on the market currently. Last month was 56. Inventory's ticking down with those guys as well. Price point range high of 7.6 million, and then median is right around 3.7, and then low price point is just a little over 2 million. And then that cap rate range, the high of 5.7, median is 4.75, and then the low is in that 3.85 range. Again, positive as far as inventory coming down, and just kind of cap rates and price points haven't changed much the last.
We sold one in the first quarter.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, they're still really good. Buyers love that brand and love the kind of like what we were talking about earlier about pickup windows and mobile ordering. They're big on that. That's more of their new prototype, and the buyer demand is there for that. So even some of the older ones that no pickup window, some of the buyers, don't want to gravitate there, and some of those can sit a little bit longer. And then Starbucks, again, same positive trend. It's even probably more pronounced there because the ones that we're tracking there, again, just to reiterate, a little bit longer terms, we're looking at 8+ years. There's only 109. There was 117 last month. Back to net absorption, there's kind of decreased 8 when you look at the overall current inventory. So still positive trends with Starbucks there. We've been seeing that the last several months. So again, that's continued and positive for those guys. The high on the price range for them is 6.4. There's some big price point West Coast deals. Median is still just under 3 million. And then kind of the low range is, kind of the million, a little over 1 million older product. And then cap rate ranges, the high of 7.16. And then six cap is kind of the median with those guys. And then there's some low California deals that are in the 3s still. But, cap rates kind of dropping a little bit as far as the median with them. And then, again, inventory levels are coming down. So those cap rates I could see continue to come down with those guys as they're more focused on, kind of upgrading sites. Their new builds have kind of come down a little bit. So I think all that's been real positive.
Since I did miss last episode, I think that's the first time you've had like positive absorption since we've been kind of tracking this.
They've been coming down.
They've been coming down.
This is probably the most that we've seen. And at the end of the year, we saw a lot of product come off the market.
Yeah,
all of these guys. So it's been trending the right way. And I think with Starbucks, with them focusing a lot of the attention on the existing assets and kind of improving, what that looks like, adding more seating inside the sites.
Yeah.
And their focus being there and kind of pulling back on how much they've been developing, then those numbers have been coming down. So that inventory's been getting better.
On the Starbucks inventory, though, have you tracked any, for the longest time, we were always talking about the lease structure being an issue for a long time. And then you had new lease structures come on board. Yeah. I wonder, I don't know if you have that granular of data, right? But like that would be interesting to know. Like, are there's a lot of those ones still hanging around that are getting? I mean, because it would suck if you had the Starbucks with the shitty lease structure, and then the new one comes out, and that's what you're competing with, and it's like, you know.
Well, and we keep hearing of discussions, and you know, I think it'll come at some point.
Yeah.
I think that, you know, they've heard from the marketplace for years now. Hey, you'll be way more competitive. Your competitors are offering, you know, more appealing lease structures, whether, you know, Dutch Bros, Seven Brew is in the mix.
Yeah.
And those guys are doing absolute net lease deals that no landlord responsibilities. So Starbucks is such a great brand, but I think they've, you know, when they really ramp it up and they're, you know, losing sites, then I think they'll get, they're going to continue to move that direction, I think.
Yeah.
So it'll just make it more competitive. We've talked about this a number of times, but, you know, their cap rates would drop.
Mm-hmm.
It should trade more like a Chipotle, and as far as if they went to a similar lease structure. So,
Yeah.
you know, so far they've got such a great brand. They've been able to navigate that and get away with, you know, less than ideal from an investor standpoint lease structure. But I think they're going to continue to go that way. I hear that they're evaluating it, and we'll just see, you know, if and when they go that way.
Oh, so they haven't gone that way yet.
No, not completely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
They'll do some ground leases here and there.
Mm-hmm.
And I think part of it is, you know, people will ask me sometimes, hey, if we get a ground lease, what kind of cap rate? In theory, it should trade even lower, but some of it is, I think they get, if it's just onesie twosie and there's a couple deals here and there where they get forced to do a true triple net deal where it's a ground lease, I think it gets lost in the shuffle a little bit.
Yeah.
People just don't know. And so they're kind of evaluating, and maybe Starbucks gets knocked off the list, even though maybe there's a few. So you got to really highlight those opportunities because it's a great brand, good credit, good investment profile, but you got to really highlight those. Hey, this is unique, so it's a ground lease. Whereas if it was more standard, they would just see an overall drop in their rents and cap rates. Just real quick, we'll touch on the 10-year. We've been watching the 10-year closely. For March, the high on the 10-year is a 4.27. The median was a 4.13. The low was a 4.05. Today was, I don't remember if this was today or yesterday. It might have been, I think this was yesterday, was closed at 4.27. So, you know, there's a lot of uncertainty in the market.
Yeah.
We got a lot of wars going on. Somebody asked me earlier this week, hey, are wars good for investment in real estate? And I'm like, it was kind of facetious. And I'm just like, hey, anything that creates uncertainty and doubt is not good for any investments. I think you see that with the stock market. That carries over, obviously, with investment real estate. You know, we haven't seen people terminate, but, you know, when there's a lot of uncertainty in the market, I tell people that's not a good thing for what we're doing because people tend to take a wait and see approach. When the stock market is taking wild swings and people's portfolios are getting beat up, sometimes they go, wait a minute, I don't want to necessarily buy this real estate deal. They feel more encouraged to do that when their stock portfolio is way up and they're feeling better about everything. So,
I mean, a lot of times people just start paying on debt.
That's
right.
right.
I mean, that's a guaranteed cash on cash return. Right
That's
there.
right.
It. Saw this the other day on Twitter. Someone goes, "You've got to read the hotel reviews for these hotels in Dubai."
Oh, wow.
And one of them said, "I would not stay here. A missile hit our hotel room."
There's a bunch of
Which
fireworks.
that is not
outside.
funny, but it is hilarious. So, but I mean, I thought Trump said the war was over. It's like, oh, it's pretty much over now. You know, carry on. That seems to be our news cycle. Everything's like a week long.
That's
you
right.
know.
Yeah.
Although I think if there is another big attack, it's going to be today after 5. Because it won't hurt the stock market as much. The stock market can absorb it over the weekend.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
it'll correct.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's what we attacked last time.
That's right.
So,
Yeah. It's crazy. Somebody was like, I had completely forgot about what was going on in Mexico. They're like, you remember the bombs in Mexico? I'm like, there's so much going on that I'm like, gosh, that was a few weeks ago now.
Oh yeah, no, yeah. When Puerto Vallarta just
Right,
blew up.
right.
Yeah.
So,
It was just burning cars. I mean, it's not the end of the world.
I mean, it's
Now's a good time to lock in a vacation rate for the summer. They'll have all blown by then.
Yeah.
it is
Get a discount
wild
rate.
though how quick our media can correct things
Yeah.
now. I mean, it is, and it's wild how these large scale events can just get everybody to forget about everything. Like,
That's a different podcast.
I know. I'm sorry.
That's a different
I've been listening to a lot of Rage Against the Machine lately, and going down a rabbit hole. So I won't start. But yeah, just hang around a week. It'll all change.
Yeah. The other two I'll touch on real quick, and we can jump into some other stuff. But the 5-year we're watching closer than we used to, just because from talking to lenders, I feel like most of them are quoting off of the 5-year because, that's just shorter term. They feel more comfortable. So on the 5-year Treasury, the high for this month is 388, and then the median is 372, and then the low is 362. So again, going back to the 10-year, the high on the 5-year was yesterday as well at that 388. And then Fed meeting coming up next week. So we'll see what those guys do. If you go look at CME Group and what they're predicting, 99% chance that they just leave as is with kind of everything that's going on. But we'll continue to watch that closely. And then the positive, I think, that we heard last month at ICSC, just talking to lenders and mortgage brokers, was that spreads were tightening.
Yeah.
And I think that's one thing that we heard earlier when we were traveling earlier this week in Houston, meeting with clients and different people, that, if you go look at the chart of the 10-year and some of these others, there were, on a month-by-month basis, those swings were, they're continuing to tighten. So they're kind of the spread between the high and the low are coming in. And so maybe we're really honing in on where that rate's going to settle.
Or maybe where our market is efficient. Keep going, Bob.
Yeah. So that was kind of the things that we're watching and kind of tracking. So I think things are stabilizing overall. Again, like we said earlier, most of the people we're reading and experts will tell you, hey, I think 26 is going to be, the number of deals closing looks like it's going to be up from last year, and there's been already positive momentum. I think what we've seen in kind of Q1 so far is that everything is up from last year. So we're on a positive trend and trajectory for sure.
Like in our industrial meetings, like when I go to Mercer Company and they do their stuff, like, that's what's unfortunate about what has happened in the last 7 days is that last year everybody had an excuse. Tariffs, uncertainty.
Right.
That all kind of either worked itself out for your company or you just accepted it and have moved on.
Right.
And so the beginning of the year started great. Like our leasing activity on our industrial assets has been great. A lot of positive things. And then, that was kind of our joke over there was like, no more excuses. And then it's like, damn it, now they have an excuse. So it'd be interesting to see where we're at in 6 months because of this.
Yeah.
If it does prolong for a bit,
If it prolongs, then we've got some problems.
we're gonna have some problems for sure. I mean, if oil's hanging around $100, it's gonna be tough. It's gonna hurt. It's gonna hurt retail, right? It's gonna hurt consumers, right? You're gonna spend less money because you're spending more money on gas. Everything's going up that's getting produced, and so.
Yeah. So we'll continue to watch that closely, and I don't know. It's crazy time, crazy environment.
It is. It's wild.
So we've got some headlines. Honestly, from our side, on the tenant rep side, we're seeing just continued deal flow activity. Everything that we had 2 closings yesterday. We were supposed to have 3. One got pushed 30 days. But, everything that I have product-wise is either sold or under contract. Tenant-wise, since January, it has been full steam ahead with 1 to 2 tours a week. We're seeing just incredible activity on the tenant side of the business. And I think what, the recent events of the world, it's going to take that. It's going to have to prolong before we feel the effects of that on our day to day. But what I would tell you is that it feels like we're entering into a new, 5 or 7 or 10 year cycle.
I
right?
totally agree.
We're up and to the right now. And so, positive. And in fact, just kind of reading through some of the headlines I put together, I mean, it's just, Costco, they're going to open 28 stores this year. They've now announced they're going to do 30 planned annually for the foreseeable future. Net income for last year was $2 billion for them. Sales rose 9% up to $68 billion for Costco. They had, their online sales were up 22%. And they're seeing not only in the U.S., but also, Canada comps were up 10%. So they've got a ton of good stuff going on there with 924 total warehouses, with 634 of those in the United States. And just continued expansion. They're building one in Mansfield right now. It's all across DFW. These strong suburban markets, they just opened in Prosper not long ago, out on 380. And so it's continued growth on the Costco side. Academy just announced 2 new locations, one in Oklahoma, in Muskogee. They're going to do, I think, 14 total locations and 20 to 25 next year as well. So Academy's growing. Target just announced their growth projections, so they're going to do 30 new stores this year, including opening up their 2,000th location in North Carolina.
It's got to be the most stores for them in a while.
In a long time. They sat dormant for
Well, I mean, they did a big layoff last year. I thought they were kind of like trending down, but it sounds like they're going to hit the gas.
Yeah. Not only that, the 30 new stores, but also 130 remodels of the existing fleet. And then their long-term investment plan is to add more than 300 new locations by 2035.
Wow.
Yep. The one in Frisco at El Dorado and the Tollway was, I think, they're number 1 in the state for a long time. They opened up Gates of Prosper. That was really kind of the first net new suburban Target deal in years. And that one has been a huge success. Yeah. Thanks to my wife and yours, I'm sure.
Absolutely. I've had to go sit in that pickup line numerous times.
Yeah. And so now they're looking at those suburban markets all around DFW and trying to get to that 30 number. So good stuff there. Grocery stores, we've touched on this in the past, but you've got 15 new grocery stores that are going to open this year in DFW, 8 of those being new H-E-Bs. Five Below just announced 40 new stores in 2026. Tractor Supply just announced 100 new stores in 2026. That'll bring their total up to 2,400 total locations. IKEA is doing 10 new stores in 2026. Some of those are their traditional locations, and then they've got the new prototype that are their
smaller
50,000.
concept.
That's right, the 50,000. And then they
Is
have
that what they're doing at Park Lane?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's a 50,000 square foot box that they're backfilling. And then they still have some of their kind of smaller plan and order and pickup locations that are 7,000 square feet. IKEA, very active. I was looking at the fuel centers as well. So Casey's announced they're going to open 80 locations in 2026. Quick Trip just opened their 1,200th location. I think they're in 22 states now and continuing to expand. And then even Love's just announced they're going to open 20 new in 2026.
Wow.
Just kind of running through the list, it seems like it's everywhere right now. And it's a great feeling. We have way more tenants looking for spaces than we got spaces to put them in. Yeah. And we're very blessed to be in Dallas. Fortunate with the incomes and the growth and the performance of the existing fleet. Everybody, it feels like, is either, if you're here, you're trying to expand. If you're not here, you're looking at coming.
Right.
Yeah.
We've got a client of mine, Cafe Zupas, they're out of Salt Lake, great soup, salad, sandwiches, made fresh, on site, beautiful location. We're about to open at 380 in Hardin. That'll be our first Texas location. Very excited. We've been working on that for years, and so glad to get it out of the ground. That opens March 26th. So please come attend. The family will be there. We'll be regulars. as well. But
He's cutting your market share.
Time for a new smash burger.
And then we've got, but we'll have the whole executive team in town. We're going to go tour. I mean, the plan is to do 2 to 3 a year, get this first one open, surround it with, 3 locations over the next 12 months, and then just start kind of doubling every year after that. So Dallas is on everybody's radar. Try to find some closures, right? Because I feel like we touch on that from time to time. Papa John's just announced 300 closures of underperforming locations across the country. Their sales decreased by 2% last year. International, though, is increasing for them. So international sales increased by 5%. Papa John's, even though they're closing 300, they opened 279 of those last year. Only 96 were in North America. Almost 200 were international units. So it feels like their shift is really focusing towards that international growth and their year-over-year comps. And then we've got a top 10 list.
Let's go.
I guess just to wrap that last piece up, I think just everything we've been saying, the momentum and the openings and the activity from retailers is as good as I've seen it in years. So, I mean, I think we should all be encouraged by that. So there's not that many guys growing that aren't seeing, big momentum and wind at their sales. So I think that's exciting.
Yeah, agreed. All right,
we're ready to put the money out. Y'all come on.
That's right.
There you go.
We did a. My dad texted me. He goes, "Did you buy a McDonald's?" I was like, "No, we funded one."
Same.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
I don't. Yeah. It's funny. I tell people we fund these brands and stuff like
Right.
that. They're like, "So you own the McDonald's?" I'm like, no, no, just the real estate side.
You're the cook in the back. You're making the burgers.
Yeah.
All right, so Dallas Observer just released the top 10 oldest restaurants in Dallas that are institutions. I thought this was a great list. Some of my favorites. So El Phoenix opened in 1918.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
That's impressive, isn't it?
I almost sold them a tortilla factory. We got real close. I don't know. They never did. They didn't do it. I sold it to another tortilla person.
I love it. Camp Easy's
Yep.
opened in 1950.
Yep.
The Egyptian Room.
They're classic.
That is a classic. Dunstan Steakhouse. 55.
All of the salmon is really good there. That's like a Brook Hollow staple. That was like, I had 2 lunch spots in Brook Hollow. It was either the Freshella catering place or Dunstan's if we wanted to, if it was,
You're
it was
stepping
a big
it up a
deal.
little bit.
You know?
Yeah.
So,
I love that. Norma's Cafe opened in 1956.
okay.
Kubi's Sausage
Oh,
House.
really? Another Brook Hollow. That's where you take your, their processing centers in Brook Hollow.
Is it really?
Yeah, so they,
Nice.
you drop all your deers off
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
And then I've never been to their main store. It's over by SMU, isn't it?
Yeah, it's Snyder Plaza.
Snyder Plaza.
Opened in 1961.
Yeah.
And that is definitely an institution.
It is.
They
Called
do a
on
great
them for-
job.
It's always kind of fun to go walk in there. And it's crazy because it's right in the middle of like infill industrial, and then there's like a bunch of dead deers laying out.
Eller's Drive-In.
Okay, the
Opened in
hamburger
19,
place.
yeah, opened in 1965.
Yeah.
Still doing it. And then one of my favorites, Jimmy's Food Store, opened in
where's that at?
1966.
Yeah.
You haven't been there?
No.
All right, we're taking a field trip.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where's it at?
So that is, what's the best way to describe that?
I mean, you're kind of
East Dallas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kind of southeast. It's not too far from downtown, and
It's down on Bryan Street.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, I would say just east of downtown.
Okay.
Yeah.
Get the Cuban sandwich.
Yeah.
So good.
That's it.
Sandwiches are fantastic. So it's a small market, a market with amazing ingredients, right?
Okay.
And then you go in the back and you've got a deli counter back there, and you can order whatever kind of sandwich you can imagine.
Yeah.
They've got frozen pastas and homemade sauces, and I'd never walk out of there for less than $150 because
Yeah.
I'm just loading up on stuff. And if I know I'm going, I take a cooler to the office with me
Yeah.
and keep it in the truck. And then you got S&D Oyster House.
Yep.
Yep, from 1976.
I ate there the other day.
So
I love
good.
that
Me and my,
spot.
my brother lives on McKinney, so we just walked over there.
It's awesome. It's close to our office.
Okay.
So we do lunch there at least once every other week. And then they added a bar upstairs.
Yep.
You seen that on the backside?
No.
Oh no, way. I haven't been there recently.
So they had an office upstairs
Yeah.
that I'm sure way back when was probably an apartment or something, and they just never used it. And so they made it kind of a speakeasy bar. And so you have to enter off the back, go up a little skeleton staircase, and it probably only seats 8 or 10 people. But it's super cool, little kind of feels like a New Orleans vibe in there. They did a great job.
Cool.
Yeah, S&D. And then you've got Javier's,
Yep.
1977.
Really?
Definitely an institution.
Yeah, for sure.
He's sitting on a gold mine.
Oh, it's amazing. It's amazing.
He's always in there too. Always.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. You go in there and he's Javier's always running around somewhere. The funniest was our office used to be at 3100 Monticello. Like if you valet, you're kind of looking at that building.
Yeah.
And we were in a space that kind of overlooked their parking lot, and Javier was always driving some, nice exotic, Lamborghini or something. And we're out there it's the middle of the day. We thought, oh, we're going to be at Javier's all the time with officing right here. We were always working, so we were just watching everybody on the patio have a good time while we're like grinding it out. Somebody's like, oh my gosh, what are these guys doing? Middle of the day, they're doing some construction. These guys are like, they've got a metal saw on like rebar or something. And this guy's going to town, and it's just throwing sparks behind him. So he didn't know what it's hitting. It is just off of Javier's car. And we're like, oh my gosh, that guy's about to be in big trouble. Luckily, Javier didn't walk out while it was going on.
Yeah, that's funny. And then last one, Darriette down on Ferguson.
I've never been there.
Yeah,
I
so
have
hole in
not
the wall,
either.
hamburgers, fries, homemade root beer since
root beer.
1956.
Cool.
Wow. What was the oldest?
The oldest was El Phoenix,
Oh,
1918.
1918. Yeah. Yeah, everything
Another-
else was really 50s.
Same location.
Well, they got multiple.
location.
Same location.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the
Oh,
original.
the original.
Yeah, right there off Woodall Rogers.
That is
Yeah.
phenomenal real estate
It
again.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So that's our list for the day.
That's awesome.
It's a good
Yeah.
one.
That's great.
Awesome. So, real quick,
Yeah. What do you got?
which real estate would you rather own or Javier's?
Probably going Javier's.
I think I'm going Javier's.
Javier's.
But I love the
I
El
would
Phoenix.
I would love both of them.
Yeah,
But,
I love
yeah.
the real estate for El Phoenix, but I'm going Javier.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. That's it.
That's all I got.
Yeah.
All right. Another
Ryan,
good one.
Thanks for joining
Yeah,
us.
thank you very
Thanks
much.
for
Yeah.
the
Great job.
insight.
Invite.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Absolutely. Till next time.